Hello, let's take a peek at the Venom Gyre Deadeye. Venom Gyre is an increasingly popular attack skill to be used with claws or daggers. It has some unique properties. Fired projectiles will always return to the character. These can be caught and stored. You can store up to 30 caught projectiles and have a 40% chance to keep these after using whirling blades. By using this separate movement ability, you can fire the stored projectiles. Projectiles fired by whirling blades cannot interact with enemies anymore by forking or returning, but can all hit one enemy no matter the quantity. It creates a powerful shotgun effect that is the unique selling point of the build. This build is one for a Deadeye class due to the obvious synergies with these types of attacks granted by Ricochet, Endless Munitions, and more broad upgrades like Gathering Winds and Focal Point. This Deadeye build has no inherent defenses from his little skill tree, so it's quite squishy. Here we don't use Crystallized Omniscience Amulet because building around it, and the amulet itself, are extremely expensive. It alters the items and skill tree completely. Here we made the build more affordable for a casual player, but the skill setups and gameplay remain more or less untouched. Despite Venom Gyre having a lot of its base physical damage converted to chaos, none of these types of damage will be of use. Instead, the build focuses more on elemental damage gained via flat, added fire, lightning, and cold damage that can be found on a weapon, jewels, and jewelry. For defenses, it utilizes spell suppression, armor, evasion, and block chance on top of around 4 to 5k of maximum life. It's not very tanky, but durable enough to withstand most attacks. It can be played as a starting build, but be careful, you can have a hard time with this low physical mitigation. With fork support, you will always create tons of projectiles, so frequent usage of whirling blades is encouraged. For boss fights, use whirling blades 2 to 3 times at the point-blank range, fire Venom Gyre a couple of times to store them again, and repeat the process. The build can run on rare items only, so it's very affordable to set up, but expensive to min-max. The most efficient setup consists of rare items, but there are quite a few popular uniques you can use too. If you plan to use Crystallized Omniscience, look for attributes instead of elemental resistances on the rest of your items. Unique jewels are more useful than most gear pieces. Vol's Vision is only good when all of your items are not corrupted, and if you're wearing Kaom Spirit Gloves to generate rage. Otherwise, it's quite bad. Elemental resistances and armor might be a weak spot of the build. If that's the case, get the Brass Dome with high rolls. If you don't need resistances, Dawnstrider boots are an excellent option to use alongside Ancestral Protector for much more attack speed. If you have high life regeneration, use Kaom Spirit Gloves to generate up to around 5 rage a second. These also have some maximum life and fire resistance. Immortal Flesh can massively increase your life regeneration and maximum life, but it only outclasses a good rare belt if you're using the life regeneration for rage with Kaom Spirit Gloves. If your other ring is Shaper influenced, go for Mark of the Elder if you value cold damage. It increases your maximum life and elemental damage significantly. With Secrets of Suffering from the Interrogation, you will Scorch, Brittle, and Sap on critical hit. These are overall better elemental ailments than the default ones, which you no longer will be able to inflict. To gain more strength, use Lethal Pride. It's the easiest way to do so, as you should allocate plenty of nodes around the fervor notable. There are also various other bonuses you can obtain from this jewel. Wrath's Critical Strike Chance or Precision's modifiers could be extremely good modifiers to get from a Watcher's Eye. The most important will be added elemental damage and critical strike modifiers. You will also need some extra strength and intelligence for gems and gear. For defensive stats, seek armor, maximum life, resistances, and spell suppression chance. You should be able to achieve a 100% critical strike chance eventually. Aim for around 5,000 maximum life, getting more would be too difficult. We recommend the Blizzard Crown for added cold damage. Modifiers should get you more life, resistances, mana reservation, attributes, spell suppression, or accuracy. Rare Claw can be very expensive. You will need a weapon with a lot of added fire, cold, and lightning damage, some attack speed, and critical strike modifiers if your budget allows you for it. Check for life, resistances, attack speed, accuracy, attributes, and spell suppression chance, the qualities of a good shield. Maximum life, resistances, spell suppression, and extra critical strike chance are the best modifiers to seek on a body armor. A basic pair of boots with life, resistances, movement speed, and some attributes or spell suppression will be good. You don't need the elusive or tailwind buffs. Gloves are mostly used for added elemental damage, accuracy, and attack speed. You should also upgrade your rare gloves with an Eldritch implicit to generate rage with hits. Rare belt like Stygian Vice can get you tons of life, resistances, strength, and increased elemental damage with attacks. On an amulet, seek modifiers for added elemental damage, critical strike mods, and some maximum life. You can also stumble upon some rare mods for an increased mana reservation efficiency of your specific auras. Besides life and resistances, seek added elemental damage to attacks, accuracy, and attributes. Opal, vermilion, 2 stone, amethyst, or diamond rings are good bases. Jewels. Maximum life and mana reservation efficiency are the top priority. Later seek resistances, attributes, attack speed, and critical strike modifiers. Large cluster jewel. Here you can get some potent notables like Fan of Blades for extra projectile, Fuel the Fight for mana leech, or some general purpose notables for elemental resistances and damage. For flasks, we've selected 2 great unique ones. Bottled Faith is a very expensive flask, but ultimately the best one for any critical strike build. It simply grants a lot of damage and creates consecrated ground. Dying Sun is used only for the 2 extra projectiles you can fire during Flask's effect. Use Bubbling Life Flask with a suffix for bleeding removal, a Granite or Jade Flask with a suffix for increased armor or evasion, whichever is currently more valuable, and a Diamond Flask with a suffix for an increased critical strike chance or attack speed. Venom Gyre is the main attack skill. It fires projectiles later to be caught, stored, and released again with whirling blades. It will deal almost exclusively elemental damage sourced from items. Link it with Nightblade, Fork, Trinity, Inspiration, and elemental damage with attack support gems for optimal performance. Whirling Blades is a movement attack you can use with claws or dagger. It releases stored Venom Gyre projectiles. Use it with Cast on critical strike support to cast link spells. These are Tornado, an orb-type spell that you can hit. It hinders enemies and deals some reflected damage, and Flame Wall, projectiles that pass through Flame Wall deal additional fire damage. For auras, use Determination, which adds and increases armor, a fundamental defensive layer. Precision adds accuracy rating and increases critical strike chance. Wrath adds additional lightning damage to attack, to increase damage and get Trinity's resonances. Link these 3 with Enlightened support for increased mana reservation efficiency. Sniper's Mark increases projectile damage and splits projectile on impact, creating even more projectiles. Link it with Mark on hit support to cast it automatically against tough opponents, and life tap to spend no mana on it. Hydrosphere exposes the enemy to cold and lightning damage. You can also hit the orb to fork a projectile. You should be able to generate rage with your gloves. Spend it on Berserk for a short-lasting bonus to damage and defense. Blood Rage grants frenzy charges on kill, life leech, and a bonus to attack speed. Link these 2 with enhanced support for more quality. You can deploy Ancestral Protector Totem for an extra attack speed. Molten Shell is a guard spell that absorbs a portion of incoming hit damage for some time. Killing all 3 bandits for the extra points is the best solution. There's no reason to favor any of them. We recommend Soul of Lunaris for physical damage mitigation, movement speed, and protection against projectiles. But if you want to be freeze resistant with periodical stun immunity, pick Brine King instead. It's great for opening strongboxes. Soul of Garukin for 60% reduced effective shock is what we'd recommend for a minor god. You could easily be one-shotted as the build is not very tanky. On the passive skill tree, be sure to pick some maximum life, claw damage, spell suppression, and elemental damage. It's all accessible in the down right corner of the tree. Allocate point blank keystone and split shot. Notable, it's very important. Here we made space for only one large cluster jewel, but it's possible to fit in two. For masteries, pick both maximum life ones for more maximum life, dagger and claw mastery for increased effect of elusives, nightblade on both, increased effect of non-damaging ailments as elemental mastery, increased effect of auras as reservation mastery, critical strike chance from spell suppression as suppression mastery, critical strike multiplier against unique enemies as critical mastery, precision reservation efficiency as accuracy mastery, and a chance to gain frenzy charges as mark mastery. That's it for the guide. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more guides.